So for the London Mayor election last time, so in third place was the Green Party, that's Siam Berry. She got 197,976 votes. So Tim Rowling has got more signatures than that for one of the petitions. And then there's John's petition, which also has over 200,000 signatures. And then there's Dave Fowler's on Parliament website, but Tim's is addressed to Parliament as well. So there's at least 400 and odd thousand. So Tim's got more signatures than the third place vote for London Mayor has got. I don't think the Reclaim Party, Lawrence Fox, got his deposit back. Oh, look, Brian Rose ran for it in London Real. You got to be kidding, I didn't know that. Count Binface, Women's UKIP entered independent. Heritage Party did enter. Burning Pink entered, apparently. That Valerie Brown entered as well. I don't actually... Heritage Party. That Love Party didn't enter. And where's Monster Raven Looney Party? They normally enter, unless they didn't get them. Maybe they probably might not have been able to afford the £10,000. Might have been a little bit higher deposit to get, and they wouldn't have got it back either, because you don't get your deposit back. Which elections are meant to be free. In Magna Carta, elections ought to be free. It's like with the women's vote. The women actually had the vote, not Magna Carta, sorry, the Bill of Rights. Women had a vote around the Bill of Rights time. It was only they only stopped being able to have a vote for a short period of time through the Representation of the People Act, early ones, and then they got it back. So I don't think that you should have to pay that £10,000 deposit. I know that there might be loads of people wanting to run for election, but it's actually meant to be the people themselves. The whole process is completely corrupted. Everyone's just meant to write down who they want, and then that's up to the government to sort out all the petitions for who they want. That's what the new ideal standard was in America when they started the Constitution, and then they started having tickets, like literally parties fixing it, really saying, oh, this is who we want, why don't you just vote for who we suggest? It's almost like taking betting advice. But obviously, if people are giving, it's almost like betting advice, which ends up rigging the bet, because if you take betting advice and then it's not like a horse race, because whoever wins is whoever people bet on. You're writing down who's going to win. It's like you are predicting who's going to win by writing it down. But if they tell you who to write down, then they're deciding who's going to win. So they're basically telling you who's going to win because you do what they say. If you do what they say, then they win, basically. So I can't think of anything worse than, tickets. But anyway, so it ended up being between Labour and Conservative. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4. The thing is that, okay, so the petition signatures don't really get close to the turnout for votes. But then again, not all of London turned out. And many people might have been against Ulez who didn't even vote or didn't even turn up to vote anyway, right? I don't know if it'll say what the turnout was in percentage. Kahn's spokesman said he was deeply concerned about issues about the ballot paper and the effective disenfranchisement of 100,000 Londoners. I don't know if it tells you what the actual turnout was. But the thing is, those petitions are meant to pursue a resolution, and it's meant to give an annulment to the orders that Kahn made for Ulez and his instruments that put it into action. Supposed to give an annulment to it while you're pursuing it, so none of the Ulez fines should be lawful, really. And the thing is, the Conservatives actually are opposed to Ulez. They claim, so if the petition's achieved enough for a debate, and if the Prime Minister is opposed to it, and they get a debate, why aren't they given a resolution? I severely doubt that the resolution is, oh, well, we'll just have a candidate who comes up and stop it, you know. Is that the Conservatives' resolution? All right, then, well, you know, okay, then we're going to be against it. Or are they against it or not in the first place? The worst thing about it is that the process of petitioning the government is meant to give an annulment in the meantime. And then I think that if people weren't getting fined now from Ulez, and if it had have been subject to an annulment, then more people will go, oh, wow, the petition did that. Let's go sign it. This is cool. Like, you know, we haven't got power. And I think they'd have a lot more than, you know, 400,000 signatures. I think they'd probably get at least 800,000 or more. I mean, look at that Wales referendum petition as well. Sorry, the 20 mile an hour petition that is due, that is eligible for a referendum because it's got well over 5% of the whole of Wales signing it. This actually just goes to show that I don't even think 2 million people are turning out to vote. If you look at it, you've got 1 million, then 893,000, 893, 894, 900. There's only just, really, there's hardly over 2 million people turn out to vote, right? Anyway, just over 2 million people turn out to vote in the whole of London. So if you get 400,000 signatures on a petition, which is nearly 500,000, that is nearly 1/4 of everyone who's even bothered to come out and vote. Anyway, that is quite substantial in an entire mayoral election. Of all the people in London, millions and millions of people in London, right, only just over 2 million turn out to vote, right? And those 3 petitions, there's probably a couple more actually, have got signatures that are getting around 1/4 of all people who turn out to vote, right? Now, 1/4 of all people who turn out to vote is more than all of the other parties, all of these other parties and independents put together. More, even the Green Party who come third place. It's like more than all that put together, isn't it? So that's something. And then you've got all the people who didn't vote, who might not like Ulez anyway, but that might be why they don't like voting for these politicians, because they don't like anything the politicians do, so they don't give them any votes. So, you know, I think that really, if put it this way, if that petition, if Tim Rowling would have been a candidate in the mayoral election, he would have got his deposit back for starters, right? Which the Monster Raving Loony Party hadn't even risked it. No one's put up 10 grand for Monster Raving Loony Party by the looks of it to get in there. I might be wrong about that. And it would have been, if Tim Rowling had have entered the mayoral elections, right, based on that petition, weighting numbers, he would have beat Cyan Berry in the Green Party by twice, basically. Well, there's John as well, but, you know, like as a cause, as a thing, as like this is something that people can get behind, right? Put it this way, there's more people behind that Ulez campaign than that are behind the Green Party, for starters. And if Tim Rowling would have entered this on that basis, he would have got his deposit back statistically. And he's a lot closer to the Conservative Party, probably, than the Green Party. I don't really know how it works with these rounds, but the numbers of the transfers didn't really make that much difference between them. We're already, well, didn't really make much difference between who's going to win between that second round, I don't think. So that's interesting to start. But the thing is that it's actually, all the fines are meant to be invalid now. And then there wouldn't be all these protests going off, and there wouldn't be all the damages or whatever the police are claiming. And that means that people would put a lot more effort into doing something productive, like collecting signatures, and have more faith in it. What these politicians are doing is they're actually corroding people's belief in their own cause, because that cause has got more people behind it than the Green Party got behind them. Now, but they're not actually getting rewarded for those efforts. And the Conservative Party could get this put through Parliament for a resolution, as well as an annulment. And what they're doing is they're actually saying, right, well, we actually want you to elect our, our party candidate into the mayor position to remove Kahn to do this, even though Kahn's already subject to an annulment. Kahn's order is subject to an annulment already. So, we are being blackmailed. The term and word blackmail, if you look in the proper dictionary, also means not only like to, you're claiming that you're going to give up information, but you're going to censor. The petition, all the petition signatures are being censured from action by Sadiq, unless people vote for his candidate, Sue Hall. That's what the blackmail is. And if the police aren't going to pursue it under corrupt and legal practices as well, which means that they can't start using privilege, then, and that's besides all of the YouTube promo that they're getting. And then you've got Starmer popping up, paid for by Keir Starmer through Google Ads, I know it's very difficult to stop people talking about elections through YouTube. It's like literally a minefield. But when it comes into the realm of, the candidates actually themselves mixing with certain groups and using those groups to get self-gain out of it, like latching onto them, then I think that it's not just the odd little channel, breaking the rules. I think that it's like the Conservatives have latched onto the Ulez movement, and they're using it for an electoral advantage. And the finances that people have donated to it, that they donated to that cause, they didn't donate for money to be used for one or other political party. And that's where I think, and then also some local councillors are appearing to influence elections. An election has to have like designated vehicles. An election has to have designated people who are helping. This is a declared vehicle. These are the representatives of the candidate, like driving people to elections and so forth. What's actually happened is that I think that there are a lot of resources and money that people have donated for one petition cause to Parliament, and they don't support or oppose any political parties. The group that have got all the money have just suddenly decided they're going to start helping the Conservative Party or Reform, and I don't think that's right at all, because this is the difference. And YouTube is in America. If YouTube, the thing. If Keir Starmer is actually running adverts now, I've done it and I've clicked political, and you've got to show ID. I had to buy a passport, and I ended up getting my old passport damaged because I had to send it in, and they clipped it. They clipped my old passport, and I didn't want it clipping. They could have stamped it like that it had run out, but they clipped it, and they sent me another passport, which. I had to pay money for that just for running one advert on YouTube. I had to get myself a new passport, which I wasn't very happy about. And it's because of what country you're in to prove that you're in England. It doesn't really. If you're not in America, right? Well, you can't really get prosecuted for influencing American elections if you're not in America, although you're not supposed to be influencing American elections if you're out of America, but at least it's almost like, they're not going to extradite you for charges. I doubt it, when people are talking about it. So they are, I know they're using American equipment and servers, because otherwise, if they weren't, it wouldn't matter what country you're in, because you wouldn't have to. If it was YouTube UK, and when you go on YouTube UK and your account is in YouTube UK, then you can't not be in the UK. So why would you have to give your passport to show that you're in the UK and you're only running an advert in the UK? Right? It's global, and YouTube have got servers in different countries. Their system is set up so it's all one network, and it's based in San Bruno. It's not an isolated UK network. It is making use out of equipment and transmitting equipment in America. And that brings the other law into it, the other legislation into it. And what the thing about that provision with the American broadcast, overseas broadcasting, is that there's something particular about that wording on the rules, and the rules, the paraphrasing of what you can and can't say is extended. It's like anything which might or may or could influence elections, like just being Jacob Rees-Mogg, things like that, like Mogg is Mogg. Obviously he's going to influence election if he's presenting a programme, because he's getting publicity from it. That provision, which comes under the foreign broadcasting one, it brings that into effect because it's that provision, and the other legislation, which is only fought within the UK on broadcasting, which really is just canvassing. It's under the rest of the canvassing rules. That is a little bit kind of like, it's not as wide reaching of its wording for, influence, So I think that's the difference, but I don't think I'm wrong about it. It's quite clear, you can see the difference from when you're, the BBC, when they have politicians on all through the 70s and 80s, it's all like, it's all kind of like, you don't have them hanging out and chatting about voting, do you? Casually on the BBC, it was all, proper and prim. This is the difference. Now it's just all gone to pot. And you'd have thought they would have thought about this properly. That's why Nick Clegg's the global president of Facebook and things like this, with all the Sheryl Sandberg meetings and all this. But they didn't. And I think there was an intention behind that, because they thought, this is a good opportunity to, just, paint the town red with political influence. But as long as we can get a handle on it, we're going to sort of, what they should have done is, why didn't they just scrap all that legislation? They didn't want to scrap it because then the main channels would also end up just getting sloppy like the rest of YouTube. That's why, and it would have just thrown the whole thing. Then you could have just had the BBC, could have just said, we'll just help the Tories, or we'll just help Labour, which, they're not supposed to do because it's meant to be all fair, So I think they've just made a mess out of it. And it's hard to not end up getting, if you want to talk about it and debate it, you end up getting dragged into it, It's hard not to, because you've got, you want to have a say about it. They made a mess out of it. They kind of want to scrap the whole thing, but they don't want to scrap it yet, because that means the BBC and ITV and so forth, or the major newspapers that they don't want, effectively, Labour doesn't want, the Rupert Murdoch or whatever posse to just, take over the major channels and like thrash them either way, Tory or Conservative. But that's happening now anyway on social media and YouTube and the rest of it. So I think it's a complete and total mess at the moment. And the worst thing is, I don't think the Election Commission or the BBC or the police or anyone is going to do anything about it, because really it's just blitzed now. It's completely shrapnelled the whole thing. And, this Ulez thing is worse because it is blackmail. They are being blackmailed. Because you don't hand in 400,000 signatures and not get some sort of action from Parliament. They've got around the same amount as what they've got in Wales for that, when they've got over 5% of the electorate of all Wales. They've got a quarter, not a quarter of the whole electorate of London, but out of the people who turned up to vote, out of everyone who bothered to turn up to vote in London, that's quite a significant amount of people, they've got a quarter. They've got signatures at the moment that suggest it's at least somewhere around a quarter of all people who could be bothered to turn up to vote in London. They've got equal to that number of signatures. Now, that is a substantial number. There are many political parties who never get a quarter of the votes of people who turn out to vote, And all these other minority parties here, they haven't got a quarter. The Green Party, if the Green Party had got 1/4 of all the votes of people who turned out, like that would be 500,000 people, roughly out of 2 million. I think Sian Berry would have been a lot more pleased with her results if she'd have got 500,000 signatures, but she only got 197,000. So I think that Sunak and Sue Hall are kind of, we're being scammed. We're being scammed by, Sadiq Kahn, I don't think he's got a clue about proper process and procedure of petitions and appeals to Parliament. Jeremy Johnson QC Jeremy Johnson QC, that paper that he did that's been published about Lord Hanningfield, Representations of the House of Lords, that's wrong, because it ignores the existence of the Corrupt and Illegal Practices Prevention Act and processes. That's one thing. He's meant to be like, KCQC. So